So apparently, Michael Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year from 1988 is completely fake. Apparently, it was completely fake. And we're going to look at some of the evidence. Before we get on to that, though, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. What isn't fake is our road to 10,000 subscribers. We are 385 away. We're trying to hit it by Sunday, where we are going to be live for a massive stream watching part 3 of the Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. But this is the article right here. So we're going to bring this up right now, and we're going to be reading parts of it. Obviously, it's quite long, so we're not going to look at everything. It says here, a closer look at Michael Jordan's 1988 DPOY, questions about its validity. Has LeBron James been chasing a ghost? And I actually will say this. I think there's definitely things to question the validity, but I also think you can maybe question the validity of every single award from like the 1980s. I think that when it comes to watching full games, I think if you look, and I think you could probably do this all the way up to now, like we saw it in the Jaren Jackson, where home box score people were accrediting, where like guys were getting especially guys that are in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, when it comes down to numbers like steals and blocks, at home their scorekeepers give them way better than they should. Like we saw it with Jaren Jackson Jr., so it's happened. It's happening still recently. But I don't think it's some big conspiracy in 1987 or in 1988 to make Michael Jordan this like absolute world beater. They're like, they need to give him this award. I think that it was the Bulls stat keeper just saying, we're not a particularly great team right now, but we think Michael Jordan's the best player in the world. Let's try to get him everything. I don't think it's this NBA conspiracy. But at the same time, like, I do think that the Defensive Player of the Year thing, the argument being like Jordan has a Defensive Player of the Year whereas LeBron doesn't, is just a dumb argument, because again, LeBron probably should have won in 2013. I'm not going to say he was robbed, but he probably should have won. So, maybe the most consequential Defensive Player of the Year in 1987-88, Jordan became the first player ever to win a scoring title and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. This feat hasn't been duplicated. Probably never will be. Because guards don't really win it anymore. The way the offensive scoring load is, if you try to do both, you're just going to be you're not going to last in the playoffs. One of the goals I set for myself, I want to show people that I'm more than just a scorer. I'm a complete player. So there is a point right here. I just want to see the numbers. Earning 37 votes, besting rim protecting centers. There is something I want to see here, and it's basically talking about the home versus away disparity. Like it says here, he averaged 4 steals and 2.1 blocks at home, and on the road he averaged 2 steals and 1.2 blocks, which is crazy. And there were so much higher at home than on the road, and obviously, like, it is what it is. But if you're looking right here at all the other players, yes, Jordan had the biggest discrepancy, but like the next season, Mark Eaton was something similar. So I don't think it was a Jordan issue. And like Jaren Jackson Jr. had a big difference as well. And like people are looking back in Jaren Jackson Jr. games like how he's just not getting these amount of blocks. But there is also something I do want to see. It is the really funny stat that there was a game. They watched 6 games, and there is a game where he basically had more he had more steals than the other team had turnovers, which is not possible. If you know about basketball, to get a steal, the other team has to turn the ball over. So what ends up happening is he realistically got a bunch of fake stats. During this article, they watched 6 random games, and they counted 6 random home games, Chicago. They counted 12 steals and blocks. Or was it 12 steals? I think it was just 12 steals in those 6 games. So he averaged 2 a game, which is still really impressive, by the way. And the Chicago box score gave him 28. Instead of 12, they gave him 28, which is more than double. So obviously, that is going to have a factor. Could he have won Defensive Player of the Year without it? Yeah, sure, maybe. He was a great defensive player. Was Jordan a supremely overrated defensive player? More than likely. Like, Scottie Pippen guarded the best player on the other team, but like to say Jordan wasn't a great defensive player is a complete lie as well. Like Jordan, especially on on the perimeter is one of the better defensive players there's been, but like he wasn't this god tier defender. Like I would say prime for prime, Michael Jordan and LeBron James had a similar level of defense, although like look, LeBron hasn't played defense in the best part of a decade. So it is funny though, because I don't think it's just Michael Jordan. I think if you look at Stockton assists, I think if you look at some of the Magic Johnson stats, I think if you're looking at, I think the only stat that is 100% accurate is always going to be points. It's the only thing that's ever going to be accurate, because I think if you start to look at these old games, and apparently like the NBA are making it really hard to find these games, because look, they don't want this type of stuff to come out. They really don't. Like I would be shocked if you looked at Oscar Robertson's the year he averaged a triple-double, because that was such a big thing. I would be shocked if he actually averaged a triple-double. Like, I would be shocked if a lot of these old records were the case. And I'm also, like, we've seen with Jaren Jackson Jr. that scorekeepers can manipulate stats in the year of 2024. So I think some of the stats might be manipulated now. So I think this is, like, more than anything, because I also don't think that, like, counting stats meant as much back then as they do now. Like, people didn't have all these box scores and weren't just box score watching as much as they did now. So I still think Michael Jordan probably could have won that Defensive Player of the Year from people just watching the games. But at the same time, I think that it's really dumb people using the box score argument now, because if you look back, there was nobody like vetting these stats. I'm not sure, again, I don't know what way they do it now, but it just shows the pointlessness of arguing box scores in the Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debate. Because in the end, that's the only reason why people are still looking back at Michael Jordan, because there are people that are fans of LeBron James that want to discredit Michael Jordan, and then there are people that think Jordan is the greatest that want to discredit what LeBron James has done over the last 20 years. It is what it is. The reality is like Michael Jordan had one of the highest peaks, had probably the highest peak of basketball history. Michael Jordan was probably the biggest reason for the explosion of the game. He was there for the dream team. He was there for like all the biggest parts in the growth of the sport of basketball. And Michael Jordan was a larger than life figure. LeBron James has had a level of sustained greatness that we have maybe never seen in, I'm not going to say in like contact sports because of Tom Brady, but in a contact sport where you can't just coast. We have never seen this level of sustained greatness in basketball. He's averaged more points in year 21 than every other year 21 player combined. Like, let's kind of slow down on the LeBron James slander, because, like, look, I think you can maybe make an argument for Kareem, but for most people, these are the two greatest players of all time. And I think there are incredibly valid arguments to be made for Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And whether or not he has a fraud, all that showing this stuff does is make the guys that already think LeBron James is the greatest of all time go, ha, I'm right. And it's not going to affect anyone who thinks Jordan's the greatest of all time. Just like if LeBron does something wrong now, like getting JJ Redick as a coach, you're like, ha, Jordan would have never done that. So, like, it is what it is. The GOAT debate is dumb because it is just purely based on what criteria you have for the greatest of all time, what type of basketball you want to watch, and honestly, what age you are also comes into effect for the GOAT. But at the end of the day, is it a fraudulent award? No. Were his like stats probably inflated? Sure. At the end of the day, it is what it is.